Let me take this opportunity firstly to say it's great to be in this bay, the bay of opportunities. And it's good for us to have this opportunity to be gathered in this fashion. So a very special and a warm welcome to VW Global Africa, Martina, Fernando, and Sia. It's good to guys have you here. And a very, very warm and special welcome to Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber CEO Denise, and it's good to have you here, and to our fellow BDO South Africa partners, Nato and Sia. So welcome all of you colleagues. This is an opportunity for us to really reflect and to just engage in conversations. We're elevating conversations and about a whole range of issues around us. But allow me to just reflect on the outcomes of the recent elections we've had as a country in the national elections. The outcome is what it is. I think it's well communicated across the spectrum through various medias, and the issue is, and the challenge before us, as we're reflecting this, as I'm welcoming you, is so what's the way forward? And by end of this week, or at least middle of next week, or latest end of next week, we should be in a much more certain position around the model of government that will be taking this country forward in the next 5 years. And it's more about that model of government, whether it's in some form or shape, coalition government or government of national unity. What are the critical issues really? There are three things that we would expect from across the spectrum is really is the kind of government that will put forward the respect for law, rule of law and the constitution of the country. That's number one. Number two, we'll expect a kind of a government model that would create for a sense of stability, certainty, for more investment. I think that's conducive for investment. Thirdly, we would expect a kind of a model of government that will focus more on growing the economy, reducing unemployment, poverty, and I think that would further entrench a sustainable, call it the stability in the country. And all other things then will fall into place. I thought it's important that we just take a moment and reflect on that as I welcome you. Then there's a second issue I would, as part of my preamble and setting the scene from my side, is the importance of the public-private partnership type model. And this is important because we are gathered in this fashion because that's an outcome of that. That's us actually walking the journey together in trying to forge this partnership. So why I want to reflect on that? Why? Because this public-private partnership, it's a kind of a model that sets the basic and the ethos for inclusive economic growth, social cohesion, a shared vision of building a robust and sustainable business landscape. And this is what we need as a country and as participants and as leaders across the spectrum. Because when we talk about the leadership of the country, it's not just about the government, but all of us in whichever space we find ourselves, we are called upon to really give that sense of leadership. And public-private partnership is that kind of a base and a model that needs to be adopted and embraced. It is through such partnerships that we can leverage on collaboration and focusing on synergies that benefit local economies such as Nelson Mandela Bay, the Bay of Opportunities, and ultimately the country at large, South Africa. Because the Nelson Mandela Bay as a local, community, it actually exists in the broader context of South Africa. As we gather today, I am reminded also of another platform where we as BDO will participate. And that is where public-private partnership is happening at the national level through BLSA, of which we are a council member and I sit on the board of BLSA. At that level, again, the collaboration between the private sector and the government at national level has been happening even before the elections. That has sought to really create that collaboration around what are the 3 or 4 critical issues that we need to focus on. And that has been the outcome of the 4 initiatives focusing on provision of energy security, transport and logistics, crime and corruption, water, sort of security, and all that like wrap up in the whole issue of how we can actually create an environment that's more conducive for foreign direct investment. So at BDO, we are very much aligned to such national initiatives and which are really centered on collaboration. Now, let me come back, Denise, and talk to you, and as I welcome you, representing Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber. At BDO, we are very, very proud, of Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber and our collaboration with yourselves. And because we believe that talks of our high purpose. And this high purpose is really to promote and retain investment, in the Nelson Mandela Bay, a community. And because why? Because we believe in three things. One, we believe in the importance of a thriving local economy. We believe in the importance of a thriving community. Thirdly, we believe that when there is a thriving local economy and local community, that's actually has got a spillover benefits to the wider national economy. And that sets, our excitement and of really being in collaboration with Nelson Mandela Bay Chamber. Now, coming back to VW at Global Africa, Martina and Fernando. As BDO, we welcome the VW Global Africa to this round table, and we really want to commend you, Martina, and VW Global Africa for the recent, announcement, by Volkswagen Group Africa to invest an additional 4 billion at an existing Kariega plant. And it is quite a significant investment. And I think at a later stage, we'll engage a bit more. I've got some questions to ask around that. VW Global Africa's as a sole manufacturer and supplier of the Polo Vivo for global markets will reaffirm, critical issues such as job security, skills development, and will bolster, of course, the province's GDP. And that's where Nelson Mandela Bay Chamber comes in, and Denise. And we believe that there's even greater opportunity, Martina, for VW Global Africa to take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, area, and thereby to increase, vehicle exports and, in the continental markets at large. This can only be good for Nelson Mandela Bay and as well as for South Africa, one to believe. Now, in conclusion, in my welcome, we're really looking forward to continue to work collaboratively with yourself to identify synergies and opportunities for further collaboration, particularly with Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber and VW Global Africa, whose efforts really to establish partnerships with like-minded organizations such as BDO needs our support and our involvement. And that's why we are involved in this. And personally, it was important for me to be part and parcel of this setting today. So we really look forward from a BDO perspective, to this afternoon discussion. And this is about how we can elevate people, how we can elevate business, and how we can elevate society at large. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bonga. I think just to kick off, I'll start with you, Denise, with regards to the manufacturing showcase. Just to maybe just give us the objective and what resulted in the business chamber making a decision to basically showcase this bay of opportunity. And Martina, I'd like for you to also just weigh in, because we're part of the session, just in terms of your experience, and you are part of the chamber as you are a board member. Denise.
Yeah, maybe if I can just go back a bit as to how we got to that point, because about over 3 years ago, our board decided that things were really at a tipping point. And as a business community, what are we going to do about it? We can either disinvest and the jobs go with it, or we're actually going to roll up our sleeves and do something about it. So then we decided we want to stay and we're going to do something about it. So that started the adventure we've been on in the last 3 years. And really the focus was on resurging the Bay And we've done a lot of innovative interventions in that space. And Bonga, you spoke about public-private partnerships. I think we've been doing a lot on the ground to get things to happen. And I think a lot of people thought we were crazy with some of our ideas, adopting substations, starting geographic clusters, where we now have 11 across the city, where you've got businesses organizing themselves so that they understand exactly what's happening in their immediate environment and they can address the issues. So, so that mobilization of our business community, I think, is quite unique in the country. We've got wide urban sprawl, but we're still able to bring everybody together. And I think what has brought us together is the unity of purpose and the absolute commitment to doing business in the Bay and to the people and to the communities. So what we're doing now, as we've got the research in the Bay initiatives moving forward, and we've had some good successes where, for example, on the city sanitation system, we had engineers from business that worked together with the municipality officials to address or to first understand what the issues were, come up with an action plan, and then guide them through the process. And they actually improved the availability factor from 15% to over 75%.
Sure.
So that shows you what can be done without exchanging money. It's about expertise and working together. So now what we did last week, we came up with this idea of the Bay of Opportunity, because that's the other channel we want to put our energy into. And we've been able to unite everybody together, and Volkswagen Group Africa have been amazing. I feel like I'm almost part of their team because I deal with everybody in the company there. And I do the same with a lot of the other companies. But what we decided to do is really show a sign of force and our joint commitment to the city and the potential that it can actually be. So we brought in, it actually started with Volkswagen, where we had this discussion with Andile around doing a president's debate, because we have a unique opportunity in that we have the presidents of the AAAM, which is Martina, and of NAMSA being Billy Tom from Isuzu, and then our president, Loisa Dotwana. But then that grew into something much bigger. So we ended up having Stellantis that we pulled in. They're the world's third biggest automotive manufacturer. They're setting up a 3 billion rand production plant at the Kucha IDZ. So we got them to do a briefing, and then we went into our president's debate as part of our AGM. But then the next day, we also wanted to show the diversity of the manufacturing. While we, the automotive hub in the country, and if you also look at our supply chain, which is massive, from tires through to catalytic converters, we also have pharmaceuticals, we have beverages and so on. So what we did is we started the day where we had hydrogen, which you mentioned earlier, Sia. I mean, 105 billion rand green ammonia production plant that they're planning. That would be the biggest investment ever into South Africa. So we need to support them and make sure that that development happens. And then after that, what we did is we also took the stakeholders to Aspen Pharmacare, where they could also see the high-tech facility there and all the expansions that are underway, you know, which is significant and talks to their commitment. And then after that, we topped it off with the launch of our local economy reinvention think tank, which also sounds crazy, but really it's about recognizing the technological changes around the world, the challenges in our own country, and how do we reinvent manufacturing so we retain manufacturing capability here, we retain jobs in manufacturing, and we also grow them. You know, so that's kind of how we got to the point of the showcase. I know it's a long answer to your question, but that's how it ended up like that.
Wow. Thank you. Martina, just to hand over to you, because I mean, what was interesting, Bonga, I attended the showcase. So Martina was sitting next to Billy Tom, who is the CEO of Isuzu.
Yes.
And obviously one would assume that you are in competition. But it was interesting when, during the president's debate, when you said, look, Isuzu is not your competition, Stellantis is not your competition, but it's actually VW itself, like the other manufacturing plants across the world. Just your take on that.
Yeah, I think that is a good example, or to what Denise said, like the community coming together, rolling up their sleeves, the business community rolling up their sleeves and trying to fix things or drive things. That's also very true for us automotive manufacturers in South Africa, and also in us going into Africa. So indeed, in NAMSA as well as in the AAAM, we have a very good collaboration because the challenges and the things which needs to be fixed affect all of us. So there's no competition. I mean, in terms of can we jointly get the South Corridor going, or can we jointly fix the issues of electricity supply? The competition at the very end comes in when we then compete with the products, which is perfectly fine. But 90% of the way we are in it together. So there was not a particular, that's what you see at the showcase for the first time, but that is very much how it feels almost the entire year in terms of collaborating and partnering with each other to find good solutions and to drive the business, be it here in the Bay or be it in South Africa or in Africa. And I just want to make one comment. For me, it's always, it's a fine line between rolling up the sleeves, which we happily do, and also, as well as Isuzu, we've joined Business Leadership South Africa as the national body for the industry, also partnering again with a chamber in the Bay. And they also, everybody rolls up their sleeves and tries to help fixing. But sometimes it feels a bit like then, okay, government and municipality takes it for granted that somebody else fixes it. And that's something which we'll have to balance. It's not that we are standing in for government or standing in for municipality forever. There must be a moment in time when they come to the party. And unfortunately, in my last interactions, it feels a bit like, now we've announced the investment. Okay, nothing to do anymore about electricity for VW. They stay for the next 73 years. CEO has said that. So to balance that sometimes makes me a bit nervous.
Because essentially we need government to succeed in all spheres. That's what we actually want as business.
No, 100%, 100%. By the way, once again, and welcome on, as a member of the BLSA.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I said, I sit on the board, and from a BDO South Africa perspective, we're also council members. And it's really wonderful to have, VW Group Africa sitting on the BLSA. And just whilst on the 4 billion investment, just on that, I mean, could you just elaborate and just share with us what does that mean for you from a company perspective, from a group perspective, but for the local economy as well? And what if you were to elaborate a bit more, what does it really mean? I mean, we've got our own views of what it means, and I've got my own take, but it will be quite interesting to hear from you, Martina. What does it mean?
Yeah. So first to what Sia was quoting me from last week, it was not really easy to get this investment confirmed because, as you were rightly saying, my biggest competition is not Toyota. That's when everything is done in the market. My biggest competition is Toyota, but that's only in the market. But to prepare, my biggest competition is 112 other plants in the Volkswagen world, who also bring forward great ideas to Volkswagen headquarters on what Volkswagen could spend money on and where the profit pools of the future are, and the electric vehicle transformation and the battery cell manufacturing and what. So all of us bring great proposals forward to why to invest here. So and now I bring my great proposal forward, or we, of course, as a team bring the great proposal forward. Why don't we do another product in South Africa in the plant? And with this proposal comes 3 weeks before that comes a proposal on, by the way, we don't have stable electricity supply. We must rent generators for 130 million rand to keep our plant running. And yes, we are also not so sure whether logistics is still a challenge in South Africa as well as in Africa. So that competitive environment, which must be created for me to then bring that proposal forward, that was not very easy. But finally, we all convinced everybody of the great potential, mainly also with the Africa Will Thrive background. So that means for us, so we'll invest in a third product which is based on the same platform as the current Polo, so the new model, not the Vivo, but the current Polo. And that is also why we can integrate a third model. So Polo and Vivo will continue in the plant, and then from 2027 onwards coming offline, but integration already starts at the end of this year in terms of production facilities. We'll integrate that third model. That will, and it's on the Polo platform. It is an SUV, so a small SUV, because that's from the statistics, the body style of the future, not of the future, of the present, but also the one growing
into the future,
into the future.
Yeah.
So a very nice small SUV. We run a naming competition in Africa to get a good African name for it. So we'll make 4 proposals. We don't ask Africa, please propose, but this is 4 proposals. Which name should this car have? So I'm quite excited about that, to involve South Africa and Africa in the naming. As I said, coming offline 2027, and it mainly will secure jobs. It's an ICE, it's an internal combustion engine product again. We might talk about the electric future later. And that is probably also something South Africa should consider to, of course, welcome all these new investment and this new job creation. But also, once you've got a huge business with us, we have 4,000 direct employees, that must also be maintained. It's not a given that you can continue for that like forever. So the Polo is aging, as we call it. The Vivo is aging, so the volumes will come down. So if you don't do anything about it, you will sit with not a lot. So kind of also value the existing businesses and help them to maintain what they've got is, I think, also a task for the country and, of course, for the businesses, but to value that and, of course, be happy about new investments.
And even considering your company as an anchor in the economy, if you think of the downstream opportunities, and if you weren't there, what that would mean for us as a city as a whole, you know, it's massive.
Yeah. So Tina, you mentioned earlier on issues about electricity, right? I think this is why I just want to bring in Natu, because I mean, he specializes in renewable energy. You're an expert. And maybe when Natu is done, you can just come back and tell us more about the investment you've had to make in buying generators due to load shedding.
Thanks. I think my big question probably to the VW group is to say, you know, maybe give us an idea of how you were supported at least by government, and maybe what you are doing at the moment, and also what do you think the solution is, and from your side? I mean, I'm put on the stand many times and asked, when will load shedding end? I was quoted the other day to say imminent load shedding is near, or imminent end to load shedding is near. I never said that. But the reality is that we see a lot of industrial companies going with solar solutions, and we see that has a significant impact on grid availability and capacity in recent times, and just maybe get an idea of what you guys are doing at the VW plant, and if there's anything that you're planning. I know that you have made investment in that.
So it's unfortunately it will be a long answer because it's a long story. So, from 2010 to 2024, we've reduced already electricity consumption significantly, because first that is anyway we want to save electricity. So I think we went down by 30 or 40% of.
Sure, that's significant.
And that means like even changing the lights in the production to LED lights. So we've turned every stone. Kind of how can we first of all bring down electricity consumption? So and we don't stop there, but probably important to know we are a 3-shift operation. So 24/5 days a week, currently 6 because we are targeting a record volume. But that means solar is not really the solution for 24 hours, unless you show me some magic in a minute, how you make that happen. So currently all the roofs which can carry solar panels in the plant are covered by solar panels. There's some which from a load perspective can't carry, they are not, which is also a clever idea, I think. We are about to open our employee parking. We currently built a shaded parking. It's opposite side of the road, and that will be finished also with solar panels in end of September. That gives us 5.3 megawatt when the sun is shining brightly. Downside is I need 14. And not only 5.3. So now, and already the employee parking was a bit of a challenge because that needs a cable underneath the road because it's other earth. So that we finally managed with the municipality and also with the help of the chamber to get this cable, to get approval for that cable underneath the road so that we can use this 5.3 if the sun is shining brightly. We would even be able, our base load is 2.3 megawatt. We would also want to support the community in case we, like on Sundays, on Saturdays, in shutdowns, but therefore the grid is not equipped, that we can feed back from our 5.3. There's no bidirectional meters, there's no kind of in-feeding agreement or however that is called. So that's something to work on. There is even more opportunity for solar, which is not on our ground anymore. Well, on our ground, but is a different substation. So if we would go for solar there, which we are currently considering, it would be nice if we could use this power in case of load shedding. Because what happens in case of load shedding currently, what would happen is that would produce X megawatt, and that would happily immediately go into the public grid.
Yes.
Which then for us doesn't make too much sense. Same with wind wheeling. We've contracted wind wheeling but also like in this EDO, that thing which is about to be set up or in the process of being set up, but still then it goes elsewhere in the grid, which is nice, but doesn't help me in case of load shedding. So that is something we want to become carbon neutral in production by 2030. So we are trying to offset this, and the wind wheeling will also help me in terms of becoming carbon neutral on the paper, but it doesn't help me in terms of load shedding.
Operations, yeah.
So then the uncompetitive situation in this country is that Isuzu, us and the Ford engine plant are not exempted from load shedding, whilst all other manufacturers in other regions are. So that is not a great situation in terms of competition, and I don't blame them. Their arrangements go back long, and special industrial zones or whatever. But in fact, since the load shedding becomes an issue, like really an issue, we are even more uncompetitive or put in an uncompetitive space. With the help of the chamber, or not with the help, but driven by the chamber, we've got an arrangement. So we are affected with level 5 onwards, level 5, level 6 load shedding. We've got an arrangement instead of then when level 5 kicks in, ramping down, where we lose units, stand still for 2, 3, 4 hours, ramping up where we lose units again, to rather go on a predefined schedule, at 24-hour load shedding. And we already know now for the rest of the year when we would have to close if level 5 or 6 would kick in. It's 1 day in 8 for level 5, 2 days in 8 for level 6, which is good, but which is a solution amongst something which needs to be fixed. It's better than daily, but it's not as good as no load shedding.
Agreed.
So, and then I'm done with this answer. And whilst we are targeting an all-time high production record this year as well as the sole polar manufacturer, and trying to build as many vehicles as we've never built before, we can't afford 1 day of load shedding. We've even planned Saturday shifts in, Sunday maintenance in, and therefore we had to get some diesel generators. In fact, 16, 1 megawatt each, to be able to supply these 14 megawatt and a bit of backup, which is 130 million rand for renting them, and another 1.6 million for every day I'll have to use them, which adds to the competitiveness or uncompetitiveness. Of in this case indeed the Bay, because others don't have to put this 130 million. At 130 million forward. But we're still confident. Everybody has seen these generators now. Minister Patel has made a lot of notes when he was there for the investment announcement, but that's kind of that thing, nobody comes back. That's what confuses me, kind of investment announcement, tick box, energy, let's see.
But maybe just to add to that, the other challenge we have in the city is that we're quite unique versus the rest of the country, where at least 55% of the electricity that's consumed is through the manufacturing sector. So we are very much a manufacturing city. So you can imagine what all the manufacturers have been going through from stage 5. We've had companies that their doors could have shut down, and they actually said to us, if it wasn't for that 24-hour schedule, they would have closed down and disinvestment would have happened. So we're in a very unique position, and I think it's also important for the country to realize that, and you've got to support. We can't have the country losing manufacturing. You know, it's critical skills. It's as in terms of technological advancement, a country needs to manufacture. So I think that's also key.
But it's great that you guys got involved, because ultimately, I mean, managing a grid is not easy. I'll give that to some intelligent guys at Eskom. It's very difficult to manage a grid, and one size doesn't fit all, unfortunately. And you have to engage. The stakeholders have to engage with them to try and negotiate and understand, and just match what they're trying to achieve with what you need. But still, still achieve the common goal to have a bit of downtime, but at least in times that makes sense to you as well from operations.
But I think the other issue in the electricity space, while we're on electricity, is unplanned power outages. So for me, even more concerning than load shedding is the state of the infrastructure. And we've actually been tracking in our geographic clusters, which are the various industrial and business areas of the city. There have been over 84 unplanned power outages since January last year. So what we've done is we've actually put a technical electricity team together, which has engineers from the various companies working together with the municipality to address these issues. And we're going area by area to try and address it. But that is key. And I think the government also needs to come to the party in terms of having proper maintenance plans in place and ensuring that there's funding to upgrade and maintain the infrastructure.
Just on that one, I kind of sometimes it lacks a bit sense of urgency, I would say. So like last year, the Minister of Electricity was here also in the Bay in May, soon after he has been appointed, coming to the automotive industry and to the Eastern Cape manufacturing hub. And then there was, and it's not the long-term solution, the fix. So already in May last year, everybody discovered an old gas turbine, which is still in the bay and which is left over from the the football world championship, obviously needed by then. So that gas turbine needs assessment and then probably some refurbishment, and then it would be good for 40 megawatt interim. So it could power us, could power the supplier park, could power Isuzu, and so on. So now I don't know whether somebody has even come to assess that gas turbine from May to now June, and that's a bit. The municipal procurement processes have to be adhered, and this has to happen, and that has to happen. Then 4 changes of acting people in the municipality, and then we still sit without 40 megawatt gas turbine, and that's a bit. Yeah, that makes me sometimes a bit nervous. I believe you as well, because you could have fixes or at least plasters if you would attend to it a bit faster.
It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah,
So just whilst talking about electricity, I just want to jump into EVs. I mean, because we export majority of the vehicles that we manufacture in South Africa, and most of them go to Europe. There's discussion around EVs, and Fernando, earlier on in the budget speech by the finance minister, there was a discussion, or rather he announced the fact that they're going to be giving a tax incentive. Do you think that's enough for VW Group Africa to then focus on EVs instead of ICE engines?
Oh, it's a long journey to shift a factory from ICE to electrification. And I don't think that one act like this will solve the whole issue. The power supply is one of the main things. So imagine that we have to run a factory that not only needs electricity to run the factory, but also to fill the batteries of the vehicle that need to get out of the factory. The consumption will be much higher. So it's not exactly an equation that you can solve with one incentive on taxation. So you need to make the effort to put the infrastructure needs to make it happen. And I think there is a long journey there to make things proper. So we need to think about how is going to be the infrastructural distribution of electricity for electric vehicles. So if we are competitive enough against markets that are a little bit more developed on that matter as well. So imagine that we have, for the main markets today, we are sitting far away from that. So, and if we have situations with electricity issues, transport issues that we have with harbor, rail, and everything else, that take us in a hard position to compete against more mature markets where they have those issues already solved.
Yes.
So we definitely need to think about how we're going to get those topics addressed with proper policies, and not only taxation will fix the whole issue. It helps, no doubt, but it's not the only front, open front we have. So we do need to invest a lot in many fronts. Another thing that we're probably going to need heavily is also education, because on the whole thing we have to build up a completely new set of skills that we don't have today.
Yeah.
So it's not something I can say, let's do electric. Where are the electricians? We know how to do, people around are used with combustion engines. Suddenly we go to electric, so we have to train people in large scales, and it takes a lot of investment on that one as well.
Yeah.
It's a long journey.
Yeah. No, I like what you're saying. Actually, fully agree with that. It's a long journey, and that requires leadership intervention from a number of fronts and investment, not just in terms of infrastructure, but in education as well. I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I suppose it brings to the, just more generic. There's a number of issues that Denise touched on, Martina touched on, and Fernando touched on. And I, from a number of discussions that we have in Business Leadership South Africa, through Business for South Africa and Bruce, is this issue of leadership. And what type of leadership do we need to show more going forward to really infuse more energy, positive action, and more impact? And we're talking about the model of government, but it's a model of leadership. They're talking about load shedding, you're talking about investments that needs to be done, maintenance plans, and education and investments. What type of leadership is required more? Is there something that we need to do to shift the type of leadership that's required? What are your thoughts?
To me, probably it's a bit the same change which businesses are undergoing currently. That you move from management indeed to leadership. So, and to me, South Africa, in many instances, seems like short-term survival, short-term fixing the problem, but there is no long-term vision, and there is no mid-term vision, not really, except surviving, which is already a thing. But I think we jump a bit from short-term fix to the next, like looting here, people are unhappy, fix that particular issue, carry on, and service delivery here, other people are unhappy, burn some tires, fix, and then you carry on. But there is a long-term perspective, plus measurements on ideas how to get there. Of course, South Africa has signed the climate accord, Paris Climate Accord 2050 for that example. But how do we get there as a country? I have no clue. And I would have had a clue what to do, but it's kind of, I think and that is missing in many instances.
Many instances, yeah.
I actually think there's a vacuum of leadership in South Africa, and you see it often in government, but you also see it in some businesses as well. And people are looking for strategic direction. They don't know where to go, what to do, so they just carry on doing things the same way. And we're in a radically different environment now, where everything's turned on its head.
Yeah.
And I think it's a different type of leader that's required now. Where we've spoken about action, but it's providing that strategic direction. Because I agree with you, Martina, the strategy is important, and then you have to stick to that strategy consistently, and you've got to drive it right through your organization so that everybody from the bottom up, top down, all buy into that. And to me, it's having that common purpose. And something that I've also seen in terms of, I think, our success in mobilizing the business community is selecting people that are positive leaders. Because you find when people whine and moan and they're negative, then they actually can't move forward. They get caught up in that negativity. So what I often end up doing when we start new initiatives, whether it's clusters or task teams, I go in the background to try and find out where are the best leaders, so that you can somehow move them into those leadership positions, because if you have the wrong leader, then that initiative is not going to succeed.
Yes.
So leadership is absolutely vital, and I think this country needs more leaders You know, and I don't know how you make people to be leaders, but where there are good leaders, they obviously are leading by example, but we need a cultural shift as well, because we also have this mentality where a lot of people think having meetings or workshops is the equivalent of setting direction and doing, where it's not.
It's
you
not,
know,
yes.
the real stuff actually happens outside of those sessions.
Yes,
So I think there's a big cultural change that's required.
I can maybe comment, and I think Bonga also mentioned
Yeah.
at the start about triple Ps. And you know, from the energy perspective, and what I've seen in the energy sector is the impact that when government starts loosening their regulation and opening up the spectrum for private sector to get involved, you see more strategy coming in, you see more action coming in, and you see movement, and with that attracts investment. So I do think movement that I'm seeing in the market with the triple Ps, it's going to bear fruit. I know we're probably still in fairly early stages with some of the triple Ps that the guys are looking at, but with that triple Ps, the private sector, I think, will really bring some strategy and longer term strategy, because the triple Ps will run for a 15, 20-year period. So it's not the short-term solution thing the whole time, just until the next election type of plaster that's going to be done. So hopefully we see some good things happening through those triple Ps, and deregularizing everything in certain aspects would be good for private sector, because private sector wants to bring the solution, and that I'm seeing.
So what's on leadership? I just want to talk about Africa, and maybe it's one of the strategies to try and resolve the issues of leadership. Now we've always known VW as VW South Africa, but now it's called VW Group Africa, where basically you've consolidated and you're operating in Africa. Bonga, if I'm at BDO, we're also adopting the same strategy. Just maybe if you can just share with us what's the idea behind BDO wanting to move towards operating as BDO Africa, and then Martina also just you can share on your side with regards to VW.
So our BDO view is that we need to think outside of the box, not just confine ourselves to South Africa as the only geography. Africa as a whole presents us with much bigger platform for us to grow, and we believe we're stronger together, you know, with the rest of Africa. We believe we've got a lot of upside opportunity in terms of collaboration and partnering with the rest of Africa. And hence, as BDO, we're adopting that view that our growth only cannot be, you know, optimally, realized only in South Africa, but in the rest of, you know, Africa. And I want to just almost like want to suggest and imply that I suppose that's the thinking behind VW, you know, Africa Group as well. And I suppose, Denise, that's your thinking as well.
Sort of. So one thing you quoted with your electric vehicle question is currently we are heavily depending on exports mainly to Europe, and that in our industry that comes under threat with Europe moving more and more towards electric vehicles, us not being ready for electric vehicles here, not in terms of production. We could switch that any time, but the domestic market is not ready, or the African market is not ready. So Europe, in the case of VW, is not looking or waiting for us to send them vehicles in the long term, in the midterm, be it combustion engines, because they need EVs, and the EVs they can produce in all these European plants, which are underutilized. So they are not waiting anymore for South Africa. And that was one driver, is the threat of our Volkswagen's specific business model in South Africa. Because so far we've been a legal entity producing cars for Europe and for the domestic market. And that was the Volkswagen Group South Africa. So that business model comes under threat with the current European situation. On the other side, Africa is, and that's mainly sub-Saharan Africa, is untapped potential in terms of new cars. It's, as we say, the last frontier in automotive. The new car market currently is fairly small, but the need for mobility is high. And you can see that from all these gray imported used cars. So if we were able to convert even half of the used car sales gray import into a new car sales, probably locally manufactured in Africa, we would, all of us, not only Volkswagen, it's a massive business opportunity which comes up there. So with Africa as being the last frontier in automotive and a huge business opportunity for the automotive industry in terms of industrialization, component manufacturing, battery cell manufacturing, raw material beneficiation one day. That was our driver to propose to the headquarter to not run this opportunity from headquarter, because they're not saying they don't know Africa, but they don't know Africa, but rather run Africa from Africa. So this business model comes under threat. Opportunity in Africa should be evaluated from Africa. That was the two factors finally making us rename ourselves, because people look, when I come to Ghana and give them my South Africa card, they're like, what? That's strange. What are you doing here? So now I can explain better with Volkswagen Group Africa, headquarter in South Africa. But also internally, our South African mindset, we don't know Africa. That's also there's a lot of skills to what you said in EV. There are a lot of Africa skills to be built in South Africa, and there's a lot of African competence to get into also into South Africa. So it's a journey.
Yeah.
And Martina, that Continental Free Trade Agreement, is that starting to bear any fruit?
It's early stages. So 54 countries have signed out of 55. Always when I ask which is number 55, nobody can tell me. I think it's Eritrea. I'm not so sure. So 54 countries, which is the African continent, have signed that, and it's in the ratification phase now. So it will bear fruit. The automotive section, automotive is one of the 4 focus areas, but automotive has not completely concluded. There's the rules of origin still pending, because 2 countries, Rwanda and Namibia, have opposed the current proposal for rules of origin, but that can be solved. And with that, then we'll need to finally work on more automotive policies, accelerate probably with some countries which are more ready than others already. It will bear fruit 100%. The question is, when is that entire process of ratification really be finalized and implemented?
Denise, I think my worry, and still on this Africa discussion, I think my worry, especially with the move towards the EVs, was the fact that, look, we've got a number of component suppliers that obviously supply the likes of VW and so on. And if then we had to move to EVs, are they ready? You've been in the automotive industry for a number of years. Maybe if you can just share your thoughts there.
Yeah, I think that's why we've started our local economy reinvention think tank. That's one of the reasons. So if you take catalytic converters, for example, we've got a very strong catalytic converter industry here, and they supply mostly to Europe and the US and so on. So that industry is under threat, and we are already starting to see a decline in that sector. So they need to reinvent themselves. So an opportunity we have is with the hydrogen development, for example, where electrolyzer manufacturing could be a spin-off opportunity, and your catalytic converter companies could actually convert to become electrolyzer manufacturers. So those are the kind of things we want to explore on a proactive basis. We've already had a Danish manufacturer that manufactures electrolyzers, came out a couple of months ago. And we're hoping to win them over and get them to want to invest in the bay of opportunity. But I think the changes that the global auto industry is going through is going to put a lot of strain on the entire components sector. But I think when we were also talking about Africa, and I agree with your comments around the mindset of South Africans, because I used to work in Kenya, Egypt, and Dubai. And when you go into the markets and you see how South Africans are perceived when we go there, where we come with our arrogance and we think we know it all and we've got all the solutions, where that mindset needs to change.
Yes.
And we need to become much more collaborative, and there's a lot we can learn from other countries.
Yes.
And I think if we want Africa to succeed in terms of those 54 markets, I think it starts with people, it starts with the attitudes, and then you also need a more borderless environment, because if you look at logistics on the continent and the cost of and the difficulty of moving items, whether it's by port or rail, I mean the rail system's not operating through the continent. there's a lot. I agree. This is an untapped frontier.
Yes.
But as South Africa, I think we've lost a lot of ground in the last few years, and we need to maybe eat some humble pie, and then we need to collaborate. I don't know what you think, Martina.
Yeah, so I think for the component manufacturing, it's rather an opportunity. Also, Europe and one day Africa probably moving to electric vehicles, because we all have a very high degree of localization. Mainly, we means all the OEMs. Mainly, what is hardly localized is the engine. So we don't lose engine production a lot. The only engine we build is the MPI engine in the Vivo, so that's probably 30,000 a year. And yes, for those we'll have to find a replacement. But not many of us build their own engines locally in South Africa. Nobody, as far as I'm concerned, is building gearboxes. But that's the two big portions which is missing to 100% localization. So that is not going away, or is not taken away from us, because it's not there yet anyway.
Yeah.
PGMs, you're definitely right. Catalytic converter, the long-term future is probably non-existent, but there's still, we'll try rather to currently also be a hub for the other continents or countries not moving so fast into electric, like South America as well. Africa will remain on combustion engines, majority combustion engines, as well as India most likely. So to maintain that industry for another 10 to 20 years. But the opportunity arising from all these raw materials, being even not only in Africa, but Southern Africa, which the critical raw materials for battery cell manufacturing, the rare earth, where a global fight has been started off, and not only having these raw materials, but setting up the entire industry of beneficiation, or the first two steps of beneficiation, and then probably even look into, can we do battery cells on the continent? To me, that is a much bigger opportunity than the PGMs we might lose in the long term. And the rest we don't have. I don't know whether we venture into electric engine manufacturing, probably not, but we don't lose a lot, I think, as an industry, not as VW.
Right. Fernando, I know obviously you've worked in different parts of the world. Your thoughts about South Africa, and maybe specifically Nelson Mandela Bay, and the opportunities that I think we have.
Being around is true.
Yeah.
So it is from what I've seen so far. It's a potential is there. So there's a lot of potential. There's knowledge. So it's knowledgeable people around. So they can assemble cars with high quality. It's a really good starting point. The challenges are there. And I think most of the challenges are coming from the environment around, things that we have already mentioned already. So it puts us all in trouble when energy is not there, infrastructure for transportation is not there. Acquiring knowledge for new technologies is hard to get because people are not getting trained on these topics on the region. All those things put a lot of burden, but I think we can overcome those. So I usually say that 50% from the solving an issue is recognizing the issue. So once we recognize the issue, so we can work towards finding a good solution. And I think we have most of them have been already addressed on the table. So I think it's just putting the efforts to make it happen. Coordinate things that I think you are really good with that thing. Coordinating efforts, putting resources together, aiming to a common goal, and I think we can get there. So there is a long-term view that I can see progress coming through, new generation of technologies coming through. So I think it's possible. It's not a completely out of the discussion for me. It's doable. We just need to overcome these short-term issues that we have now that can be quickly solved. I don't see any of those things that being completely chaotic, but efforts have to be put on the table. So I think community, government, non-profit organizations have to be join together efforts and push through this agenda. So of really making the region competitive. Because by the end of the day, if the region is not competitive in the long scale, we start losing. If it's not for another region in South Africa, it's going to be for another country in Africa, or it's going to be to some other area somewhere in the globe. This competition in this case, it's always there. So we cannot just say, no, we are good to go now and we're going to be good forever. It's never the case. So if you relax, you are already in trouble. So
Yeah.
keep pushing all the time.
Yeah.
And I think the potential is here. I see it, especially when I look inside our organization. People are motivated, quality comes through, efforts. So we faced a very heavy challenge a weekend ago with the whole water situation, floods and everything else. And the time that the organization took to recover from that situation is really impressive. So when the water hits the people actually react. And that's a good sign. It's really impressive. How much time it took us to come back in line?
Yeah, 48 hours.
40 hours. We had almost a meter of water inside the factory. Equipment flooded, electrical equipment underwater, so press shop underground flooded, a meter and a half of water.
Sure.
So all those things, when you say, if I see this in other places, oops, stop a week or more. Forget it, there's nothing coming out. When I saw that on Monday, they say we are starting to produce, I said, what? I saw the pictures, cannot be. We went there, yeah, they were producing. So the team has a lot of, energy, potential, it's there, knowledge to make things happen the way they have to. So I'm not afraid of that. I'm afraid of somebody taking the right decision to bring energy or the right solution for the energy situation. Open the doors for private investments, making sure that we have laws and regulations that allow things to flow into an open network. These are for me concerns, but people I don't see as a problem. It's more than the other corner.
It's amazing in what you're saying. I mean, that you're just indicating, Fernando, that it's more about the vision, the long term, and the will to push and to implement to just get things done. I mean, for me, that's in what you're saying. That's kind of the key things that are standing out, and I think Denise as well. You in so many words emphasize the need for us to get things done. I mean, assuming that there is leadership, there is that long-term vision and stuff, but get things done, because I think that's the problem. And we've said this, through BLSA Business Unit South Africa, that the problem South Africa is like, talks and talks and talks, a lot of discussion, a lot of like meetings, plans, but you don't implement.
Yep.
We must implement. I mean, issues of structural reforms, and discussion. Denise, you know what I'm talking about. And there's some of the things that we need to just sort out in structural reforms to create for more. But that's a leadership issue. And get those things done, create the right enabling environment, and allow people to then collaborate and to all hands on deck and to really work together and get things done. I mean, things will change, and just have the right, sort of motivation, spirit, get people excited. Small wins must be recognized, must be celebrated, and demonstrate to people, communicate, But you want leaders who are positive, who are driven, who motivate people, just kind of like, it's not all gloom and doom, and let's focus on the positive things that are within our controls. Let's get it done.
And I think what Martina said, I mean, we're also complementing what VW and the auto industry is doing. In fact, we've got a partnership also with NAMSA and NARCAN. And the rail corridor is the number one priority. And I think that's also why we're trying to establish national partnerships now, because we want Nelson Mandela Bay to be the national discussions, around whether it's logistics or energy. The manufacturing sector here is obviously key, and I agree that public-private partnerships is the way to go.
It's the way to go
in terms of getting that moving faster. Because I think we all want it to happen now. I suppose that's the norm.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I think just then to get closing remarks, starting with Natu, Fernando, Denise, Martin, and then Bonga, if you can then just close for us.
Yeah, thanks, Sia. I think I first want to probably celebrate the resilience of the South African people and commerce in general in South Africa. But as good a thing resilience is, I think sometimes in the last couple of years, our resilience has led to a lack of accountability for our public servants. And the fact that we are fixing everything, or we just become accustomed to things not working the way it actually should. And I think we should step up and also start holding those public servants accountable and carry them with us with resilience and show them what resilience looks like and why it's important.
You know, Fernando?
Yeah, well, with the new government that is about to be formed, I think there is an opportunity for us to engage with them, make sure that they actually take into consideration the needs from the industry, from the areas in a clear way, and if possible to propose them directions where to guide them towards what is necessary to continue thriving in the area. I think it's a good opportunity, so let's try to engage with the new government as much as we can and guide them through the right path that we believe that the area deserves. So I think it's going to be an interesting challenge for the upcoming weeks and eventually for the next 5 years, a very good growth for the whole area. So
No, I think to me it's clear there's lots of potential, especially here in Nelson Mandela Bay, and I think our people are our biggest asset. And, you know, for me, collaboration is key. And whatever government we have in place, stability is vital. We need that stability so we can have economic stability, you know, and we hope that the government will be open to partnering with business. And, you know, and I think we all need to focus on what unites us rather than what divides us. This is a critical moment for the country. And I think we all want the country to succeed. We want jobs to be created. We want investment to come in. And for that to happen, we need the stability, and then the basics need to work. So the focus for me needs to be on the infrastructure. And then I think the business will get on with the job of creating jobs.
Yeah, I always look for other people who also wanna drive business, and for also, like, look who you choose as a friend, look who you choose as a business partner, and I prefer people with a positive mindset and who get this going. And fortunately, I'll find a lot to drive, because what stops us mainly is, I think, admiring and hugging our problems and getting just like the doom and gloom of all the things which don't work. So my glass is always 3/4 full, and looking for other people who share that glass with me. And every now and then a good South African pinotage also helps.
I like that one. Yeah, no, from our side as BDO South Africa, and we believe more leadership, right leadership, focusing on the right things. And issue of stability, it's important. I think it is important that we all join hands together. We are really, truly, truly stronger together. And that talks of collaboration, that talks of triple Ps. And we need to create a new sense of culture, a value system, where once we are clear about what the problem statements are, what the issues that needs to be resolved, we need decisive leadership. Leadership that will address issues whilst being focused on the long term, but at the moment be seized with implementation. Collaboration is the way, and conversation is the right type of conversation. Let's have conversation to be clear about what we're solving for, but beyond that, let's begin to work together and do things together. And we are excited as BDO to have Nelson Mandela Bay as one of our very important partners. And Martina, Fernando, we're very excited to really join our hands and reach out to you as VW Group Africa, you know, for us to collaborate. And let's just continue on this path across the various platforms and forums. And it's really wonderful that you are on board with BLSA. And of course, and Denise, we already having our hands hard at work. So from our side, we're really excited. And thank you for this round of conversations. This is just by the beginning. And let's continue on this path.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wrap.
Located on the southern tip of Africa, Nelson Mandela Bay offers unparalleled beauty and a long-established history of having a strong automotive manufacturing base, anchoring its economy. This has grown in recent years to the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, beverages and other key products. The metro offers extensive natural attractions and an array of historical landmarks surrounded by a magnificent 40-kilometer-long stretch of pristine coastal shoreline and over 300 days of sunshine, making it an ideal location for both local and international beach sporting activities and outdoor fun. Getting around the metro is quick and easy, while its quality schooling makes it an attractive place for families to live. The Bay has more indigenous plants than all the countries of the United Kingdom, and it represents a large percentage of South Africa's biodiversity in that it is a meeting point for 5 of the 7 South African biomes. It is also the dolphin capital of the world. Known by some as the Windy City, it is in fact South Africa's least windy coastline city. The Eastern Cape Province, which the metro forms part of, is currently a leader in the production of wind and solar energy, placing it among the leading regions in the area of alternative energy production. The Bay combines the best of all worlds: the economic opportunities and benefits of a large city with a highly skilled workforce within the manufacturing sector and the flexibility of a youthful population. One of the metro's best-kept secrets is its entry point, which showcases the city's developmental aspirations and capabilities, with the most modern deepwater port in the Southern Hemisphere, the Port of Ngqura. Its second port, the Port of Port Elizabeth, is another strategic asset which plays a crucial role in many of the city's leading industries for importing and exporting their various goods to some of the major global markets. Mandela Bay is also home to the Ngqura Special Economic Zone, which houses a diverse composition of manufacturing industries in energy and gas, metals and metallurgical, automotive, agro-processing, chemicals, logistics and general manufacturing, services including business process outsourcing, energy, trade solutions and training and maritime. The manufacturing sector is the biggest driver of the local economy, with the automotive industry representing 41% of auto manufacturing employment in the country, with Volkswagen Group Africa as the country's biggest automotive manufacturer at over 24% share of the market. The metro is also home to Isuzu Motors for light commercial vehicle and truck manufacturing, and will soon see this grow to include Stellantis, which will establish a light commercial vehicle plant. Alongside these automotive manufacturers, the metro has an extensive manufacturing supply chain, which represents almost half of the country's automotive component manufacturers. One of the leading car manufacturers, Ford South Africa, has invested 600 million rand in its local engine plant to produce a third-generation engine and for the upgrade of its plant's facilities into a state-of-the-art production plant. In the pharmaceuticals sector, Aspen Pharmacare is manufacturing 16 million vials this year at its facility in Nelson Mandela Bay, and has invested 6 billion rand in upgrading and expanding their facilities and related technologies. Formex Industries, a leader in producing, developing, fabricating and supply of automotive metal-formed components, has also invested 114 million rand in its local operations as part of its expansion. Based on the Bay's capabilities and its strengths, its vision is that of being a diverse manufacturing hub on the African continent. The metro is home to many innovative manufacturers in Nelson Mandela Bay, who have engineers and out-of-the-box thinkers developing solutions to support the local industry. This two-port metro, with its strong manufacturing base and demonstrated innovation, is the Bay of Opportunity. To this end, organized business in the metro is pioneering a collective approach to renewable energy generation as a safeguard against load shedding and to reduce carbon footprints. Participating businesses are collaborating as a cluster and are in the process of signing up to a power purchase agreement with an independent renewable power producer. The plus-minus 5 billion investment in a solar and wind power facility will generate 470 megawatts of renewable energy, set to start coming online later next year. The Chamber has set up the Local Economy Reinvention Think Tank to gather future-orientated thinking on how to adapt the local economy and tap into new opportunities. The work of the think tank is being supported through the participation of engineers and innovators from across manufacturing sectors and other key stakeholder entities who are all rallying behind a common belief: the potential of the Bay to become the diverse manufacturing hub of the continent. The Business Chamber's think tank is scoping out a reinvented future, which will help unlock untapped opportunities to grow investment and jobs in the Bay of Opportunity.